Okay, AP Human Geography class's last video for folk and popular culture, and we're going to talk about why globalization of popular culture causes problems. Let's get to it. Boom. Why popular culture causes problems? Well, it's a threat to folk culture, right? Listen, Western influence from MDCs can create a dominant Western perspective, and thus what can happen? Folk culture may turn into popular culture influenced by Western perspectives. The biggest reason why folk cultures can and have turned into popular cultures is due to income, which once again, if you have the income, you have the power or the buying power to purchase popular goods. And one way is through, well, clothing, right? There's a huge loss of traditional clothing throughout the world. Now, there's a huge contrast between rural workers and business leaders within LDCs. Business leaders may have contact with MDCs and may be influenced by Western clothing. So, for example, people that live in LDCs know that wearing a suit depicts a certain social status. And not only does it make you more westernized, but it tells other people within your country that you have attained some sort of wealth or special status within society. Now, as compared to rural workers, which are denoted by folk clothing, doesn't mean that they haven't gained a special status in society. It just means that, well, they wear a different type of culture that has not been westernized. Another way folk culture can be impacted is through, well, TV, and if you will, the foreign media imperialism. That's right, I use the strong words of imperialism. Now, MDCs dominate LDCs, and the three major countries that dominate television, the television industry throughout the world is the US, the United Kingdom, and Japan. Thus, you can see how these three countries can spread their influences throughout the world. So, how do leaders from LDCs view this issue? Well, they literally state that it is an economic and cultural imperialism over their countries. Pretty strong statement there. Now, TV influences popular customs and trends to local folk customs and trends. Thus, let's say, for example, like clothing. Clothing can change because of the foreign media. Even the news, when you watch the world news, it's focused more so on Western issues and not really those of the entire world. Wow, what have LDCs done? Well, governments have taken it a step further and censored certain TV stations that they may not want their citizens to watch. So, for example, MTV is blocked in many Asian countries, as well as the use of any satellite dish. Obviously, it's much harder for governments to control satellite broadcasts than it is to control the actual TV lines planted within their communities. So they have taken steps to minimize Western influences and keep their folk cultures. All right, there's also environmental impacts. So popular culture in its most realist form promotes uniform landscapes. What that means is one location is similar to another. And really the best way you can see it is yes through clothing, but more generally speaking is seen through something called product recognition. And the best example I can give you is fast food chains. All the stores look relatively alike, right? Their food is very similarly named, let's say, or that it's almost the same if you go from, let's say, one part of the United States to another, to a McDonald's, or even if you go to another country, they might have some similar menu items. Anyways, it's used to attract the same customers around the world through these similar looking stores and food. Again, promoting uniformity. All right, and last but not least, there's a negative environmental impact of popular culture. Once again, popular culture promotes uniformity. So, let's say, for example, every single person throughout the world wants to own a car in every single country. All right, well, this is a huge depletion of natural resources. If you look here, I just name a couple. Ores, petroleum, cattle. Yes, that is a resource. What if everybody started to eat meat all of a sudden, all right? Lynx, let's say, for example, for mink coats. What if everybody wanted to wear a mink coat all of a sudden? And then the eating of chicken. Again, these would deplete a lot of resources. Now, these customs changing because of the assimilation that people want towards Western perspectives. And another way that has a negative impact on the environment is pollution. All right, think of all the pollution that has been created due to, let's say, mass production. Cans, bottles, even old cars, papers, plastics. These are often not recycled, just rather discarded throughout the world. And you can see by that picture there. Now, folk culture is not innocent by any means. They also do have an impact as well, and there's two specific ways. One is antiquated farming techniques, which can lead to soil erosion, which you see on the left here, which is basically eating up the land and not making it farmable. And then secondly, too, is the overhunting of a certain species. Let's say, for example, it's ritualistic to hunt a certain animal. Well, you know what? After a certain amount of time, if nobody else is protecting this animal, let's say, it could lead to its extinction. So we do have popular culture impacts and folk culture impacts on the environment. All right, last video on folk and popular culture. We'll talk more about this in class. I will see you then.